The great exposure, betrayal, deception, and the judgment that followed. God's hand in the chaos. The rain poured relentlessly over the city, a cold, unyielding downpour that mirrored the chaos unfolding in the lives of those who had once believed themselves untouchable. At the center of it all was Alex, a man who had been through more than most could imagine. His life had been a series of betrayals, curses, and manipulations, but now, the tide was turning. The city streets glistened under the relentless downpour, the rain a fitting backdrop to the storm of betrayals that had come crashing down. For years, they had plotted in the shadows, manipulating, stealing, and conspiring, thinking they were untouchable. But divine justice had its own way of balancing the scales, and Alex had survived their schemes. This was the great exposure where the devils in disguise were finally unmasked, the architects of betrayal. At the heart of the conspiracy were two powerful figures. Dee Harrington Scorpio, a ruthless businesswoman, Alex's ex-wife, and the mastermind behind a web of lies. She had built her empire on manipulation, stepping on anyone in her path, but her greatest deception was yet to be revealed. Baron Lockwood Capricorn, a respected figure in society, but behind the facade, he was a cold strategist who had used his connections to destroy lives. He played both sides, orchestrating betrayals with the precision of a grandmother. But they didn't act alone. A network of darkness surrounded them. Kristen von Torres, a woman deeply involved in dark magic, known for using rituals to manipulate fate in her favor. She had tried to curse Alex, unaware that his faith was stronger than any spell she could cast. Carmen de Luculio, the enforcer, feared for her lack of remorse. She was the one who made threats real, ensuring that their victims stayed silent. Derek Marshall Aries, a man without conscience, his hands stained with the blood of those sacrificed in rituals meant to bring more power to the group. Tanaya Alice Gemini, the legal manipulator, who had fraudulently taken control over people's lives, claiming conservatorship over the innocent for financial gain. Shaman Ro Virgo, the spiritual parasite, known for practicing death spells. But as her crimes stacked up, a foul stench followed her wherever she went, a sign that the very spirits she invoked were now turning against her. For years, they had operated without consequence. But God had been watching, and he had chosen this moment to tear the veil away. The crimes exposed, as the rain continued to fall, the evidence of their betrayal surfaced like skeletons from the grave. Breaking and entering Alex's home had been invaded multiple times. His personal documents, social security information, and inheritance records had been stolen and altered to keep him under their control. Gang stalking and psychological warfare, they had followed Alex everywhere, hoping to break his spirit. Jammers had been placed near his home to disrupt his electronics, his emails had been hacked, and his messages intercepted, but every attempt to isolate him only made him stronger. Murder and ritualistic sacrifice, Derek and Tanaya had done the unthinkable. The cult's thirst for power had led them to sacrifice both animals and humans. They believed that the darkness they worshipped would protect them, but they had been mistaken. Financial fraud, Dee and Baron had orchestrated a sophisticated scheme, draining funds from Alex's accounts, manipulating legal contracts, and falsifying business transactions. But paper trails don't lie, and every stolen dollar was now evidence against them. The turning point, when evil meets judgment. For years, Alex had been fighting battles no one saw. At first, he had tried to reason with them. He had prayed for their redemption, hoping they would abandon their wicked ways. He begged them to step away from the demonic cult and find faith, but they refused. Instead, they laughed at him, mocked his devotion, and doubled down on their evil. But what they didn't know was that Alex had already faced his darkest nights of the soul. He had dived deep into his pain, confronted his past traumas, and emerged reborn. He had strengthened his connection with God, and in doing so, he had rendered every single one of their attacks powerless. Every curse returned to its sender, every spell backfired. Every lie collapsed under the weight of truth. Alex stood firm, shielded by his faith, as he watched the very people who had tormented him fall into the abyss they had dug for him. The backstabbings begin. When the first arrests were made, Dee's inner circle turned on her. Kristen betrayed Dee to save herself, revealing details about their secret rituals. Carmen fled the country, but authorities were already closing in. Derek and Tanaya were exposed as cold-blooded murderers, their crimes caught on video. Shy, weakened by her own dark magic, collapsed in public, mumbling incoherent words about demons turning against her. And then, there was Baron the Mastermind, who thought he was invincible. The moment he realized Dee was willing to talk, his entire demeanor changed. He was no longer the fearless manipulator. He was terrified. The judgment. For Dee and Baron, there was no escape. Dee's reckoning, her empire crumbled overnight. Lawsuits piled up, investors backed out, and her bank accounts were frozen. The once feared business mogul was now a disgraced fraudster, her name associated with betrayal and theft. Baron's isolation, his marriage was over. His own children refused to speak to him. The reputation he had spent decades building was in ruins, his life reduced to nothing but court cases and public disgrace. Their thrones of deception had collapsed into dust. The final message. As the rain began to slow, a final message echoed through the chaos. It's over. For Dee and Baron, there would be no redemption, only the cold, hard truth of their actions. But for Alex, the storm had passed. He had survived the betrayals, the attacks, and the dark magic meant to destroy him. And as the clouds parted, revealing the golden light of the sun, he knew one thing. God had never left his side. No curse could touch him. And justice had finally been served.